मध्ये पुष्पकमासने मणिमये वीरासने सुस्थितम् अग्रे वाचयति प्रभञ्जनसुते तत्त्वं मुनिभ्यः परं व्याख्यान्तं भरदादिवृत् परिवृतं रामं भजे श्यामलं. Namaskars to all the Astikas of Bhagyanagaram. Namaskars to the Vidwans and Vidushis who have gathered on such an august forum. 1,000 years back, Bhagavad Ramanuja, who was born in the southern part of India, he took a sojourn to Tirumala Tirupati. He walked till the foothills and then started walking the steps by his knees, understanding that his nephew is coming to meet him. His learned maternal uncle called Sri Shaila Purna, who was serving the temple premises atop the hill. Imagine a state where Tirumala Tirupati was bereft of its devotees. It was all empty, where leopards and animals used to come inside the temple and go. So at that juncture was this learned scholar called Sri Shaila Purna. In the Tamil parlance, he is called Periya Tirumalai Nambigal. He understood that his learned nephew was coming to meet him, so he took the prasadam of Tirumala Tirupati so that he could meet his nephew and give him. What was the prasadam? Vadai. Who said that? Excellent. So the prasadam of Tirumala Tirupati, which is recorded in our inscriptions, is Vadai and not Laddu. So just that over a period of time, Laddu gained prominence probably because of its texture. Because Tirumala Tirupati's Vadai, you need a little bit of a toolkit to handle it. So though it's extremely delicious, you need to put some hard work. So probably the monopoly of the Vadai was taken over by the Laddu. Nevertheless, the uncle took the prasadam of Vadai and he was meeting him halfway. Bhagavad Ramanuja had a question. He asked his uncle, to meet a primitive mortal who is malnourished in knowledge such as me, should you have walked all the way and come? To which the uncle said, I didn't find anybody else there whom you are calling, because Ramanuja actually put the word, you could have asked some urchin to just carry the prasadams. To which the uncle said, I didn't find anybody around who was more urchin than me, so I brought the prasadam to you. Bhagavad Ramanuja was then asked by his uncle, what have you come for? What brought you here? To which Ramanuja said, I've come to learn Ramayanam from you. Learn Ramayanam from you. To which the uncle said, I'm extremely elated with your enthusiasm, with your zeal. So please come over the hill. It was a practice in those days for acharyas to not stay for more than a day when they go to Tirumala Tirupati, because in the Sampradayam parlance, we don't think that the God resides over the hill. We don't believe there is God over the hill. We believe the God is the hill. So people don't go over the hill and consume food or water, because at the end of it you may have to excrete, which happens on the hill. So people never used to stay for more than a night. So Bhagavad Ramanuja denied staying in Tirumala Tirupati and he said, I would rather stay at the foothills. The teacher said, I wouldn't want to lose this opportunity of having such an illustrious Sishya like you, Ramanuja. So I shall come over every day to the foothills, teach you Ramayanam and then go back. So for 365 days, if at all we have to see a precedent to homeschooling, here it is. So he used to come all the way down, teach Ramanuja and go. So at the end of 1 year, Ramanuja managed to bequeath the quintessence of Ramayanam, and he said that there are 18 rahasyas in the Ramayanam. Bahyakshepaha kalarthaha bhavabhayam sadvrittam Acharyavatta Gayatri Artaha Hitamuchita Param Tattva Arthamscha Pancha Karpanyam Seshabhavaha Ghatakavidipalam Paratantriyam Tata Tat Kashtha Kalaf Pratiksha Vasati Padamiti Prahuhu Ashtadasharthan. These are the 18 rahasyas of Ramayana which Ramanuja sincerely, justfully, rightfully with so much of passion, managed to learn from his maternal uncle. Of the 18 rahasyas, one rahasya is Gayatri Arthaha. The entire Ramayana has close to 24,000. No, don't fact check me like India Today and say it is 23,281 verses. I'm trying to be a student of numerical analysis. I've tried to round it off to 24,000. So, there are close to 24,000 verses which have been bucketed into 7 kandams. Bala Kandam, Ayodhya Kandam, Aranya Kandam, Kishkindha Kandam, Sundara Kandam, Yuddha Kandam and Uttara Kandam as well. All the commentators, be it Nagesha Bhatta, Govindaraja, Shivasahaya, Madhava Yogi and Maheshwara Tirtha, the 5 famed commentators, inclusive of the 6th one called Trayambaka Makhin, have regarded Uttarakandam to be an integral part of the Ramayana. Whether we like certain incidents in it or not, how to answer those questions if people ask questions is not their consideration and not my botheration. There are 7 kandams. These 7 kandams that constitute of 23,000, close to 24,000 verses can be grouped as first 1,000, second 1,000, third 1,000. Verse 1 to verse 1,000. Verse 1,001 to verse 2,000. Verse 2,001 to verse 3,000. So if you take verse 1, verse 1,001, verse 2,001, verse 3,001, put them in the same order, take the first letter of each of these shlokas, you get Gayatri Mantra. So, Tapaswadhyaya Niratam Tapasvi Vagvidambaram is verse number 1. So, the letter is Ta, Tapaswadhyaya. Sahatva Rakshasan Sarvan is 1001th verse. Sa, Tat, Sa, Vi, Turva, Renyam. You get it in the same order. So, why am I mentioning about Ramanuja's sojourn to Tirumala? Why am I talking about him learning the quintessential knowledge of Ramayana from his uncle? Why should I talk about this where my event is sandwiched between such a beautiful book written by Abhasji, wherever, yeah, he's here. And I'm sandwiched between such a beautiful book session and the soul-like music that you're going to hear from Karthik. Why am I the Purnam in the middle? Because you generally put chutney between 2 parts, right? Why? Because we are now very happy that there's a temple in Ayodhya. Excellent. In Sanatana Dharma, 4 words that we need to probably imbibe in us. Prama, Pramata, Pramanam, Prameyam. Prama is knowledge. That knowledge to us comes in the form of the scripture called Pramanam. When we learn the prama, which is the knowledge from the scripture called Pramanam, we understand the object of our meditation called Rama, who's Prameyam. And we who are in the process of taking this knowledge in, we are called Pramata. Prama, Pramanam, Pramata, Prameyam. Today we are excellent, we are very happy and fully satisfied with Prameyam, who's Rama, who has got a temple. But what about Pramanam? If we do not get back to understanding our own scriptures, then we may have to end up sitting for lectures. See, again, I'm not trying to build up a narrative stating that sitting for lectures by Western scholars is wrong. We should welcome Western scholars' research on our scriptures. But to understand where they are presenting the right perspective and where they are distorting, for that we should know the scripture. Else what will happen is probably, with the baritone. During the Vedic times, Varun, Indra, Yam, I don't know who is this Varun. I know he's the son of Dhawan who dances. But that Varun, that Indra, that Yam, all this, now we'll be stupefied with such lectures, and we will buy the translation of William Jonas of 1726 to Rig Veda and sit with Rajdeep at 9 o'clock in India Today and say that our scriptures are all concocted and so on and so forth. So my basic purpose is, let us try understanding our scriptures. Visiting Ayodhya is just at your beck and call. You book a flight over an Indigo, go there. There are beautiful hotels coming up. Take one picture, post it on social media. Excellent. But what about Pramanam? If our pramanic knowledge is very low or negligible, we can easily be taken for a ride by people. And today, when we know that there are beautiful books coming from extremely well-read authors, it is pertinent on our part to read those books. Just a few examples, how beautifully Valmiki takes us through Ramayana. Small details. When Rama, after leaving Ayodhya with Sita and Lakshmana, Agrataf prayayau Ramaha Sita madhye sumadhyama prishtatastu dhanushpanihi Lakshmanaha anujagamaha. When he leaves Ayodhya, Bharata traces his footsteps. He comes to Shringiverapura, meets Guha. Then he goes all the way to Bharadwaja Ashrama, which is in Prayaga Kshetram. And then he goes to Chitrakuta. When Bharata is welcomed in Bharadwaja Ashramam, Bharadwaja says, "Hey Bharata, you have come at the muhurta called Maitra. So all that you think will fructify." This one line is enough for us to understand how much Jyotishya Shastram played a role that day. Maitra comes between 6:35 and 7:15 in the morning. That's called Maitra Muhurtam. In Maitra Muhurtam, if anything is done, it will be very successful. So with that one line of Bharadwaja, we can relate it to our current day context. When Jatayu sees Rama, when the dying Jatayu, Akshunya Yoga Pathamagrahyatam Jatayum, says Kuresha, when he sees Rama, he says, "Rama, your wife Sita has been abducted by Ravana, but do not worry, you will get her back because she was lost in Vinda Muhurta. In Vinda Muhurta, if you lose something, you will get that thing or that person back. So even if you're planning to lose anything, please ensure you lose it around that time. You'll get it back." See, in 3 lines of Rama's birth, Tatascha Dvadashe Mase Chaitre Navamiketithau Nakshatre Aditi Daivatye Swachcha Samstheshu Panchasu Graheshu Karkate Lagne Vakpata Vinduna Saha. In 3 lines, Valmiki gives the horoscope, Jatakam of Rama. He says there are 5 grahas at the exalted state, because in Jyotishya Shastram it says, Panchauche Lokanayakaha. If 5 grahas are at the exalted state, you will become a world leader. He says that in the 12th house of Rama's Jatakam, there is Brihaspati, Jupiter, and Indu, who's Chandra. In a Jatakam, if you have Indu and Brihaspati in the same house, then you check for a position called Kemadruma Yogam. If Kemadruma Yogam or traces of it exist, there is chances for separation between the man and his wife. But Rama escapes Kemadruma Yogam by a whisker. That is why, though he was not permanently separated, on and off there will be a separation. So Jyotishya Shastram plays a role in Srimad Ramayanam. When Hanuman, for the first time, Hanuman is a strong Kathapatram in Ramayanam who comes after the interval. He meets Rama in Kishkindha Kandam. When he meets Rama, he says 3 lines. Padmapatrekshanau virau jatamandala dharinau anyonya sadrishau virau devaloka dihagatau ayatascha suvrittascha bahavaha parigopamaha sarvabhushana bhusharhaha kimartham na vibhushitaha. 3 verses. That is enough for Rama to give such a detailed lecture to Lakshmana on what communication skills are. He says, "Lakshmana, in my 38 years of existence, I have not come across an eloquent person as much as him. Na anrugveda vinitasa nya ayajurveda dharinaha na asama veda vidusha shakyamevam prabhashitum nunam vyakaranam kritsnam manena bahudhashrutam bahuvyaharathanena na kinchit apashabditam avistaram asandigdham adbhutam avilambitam urastam kanthakam vakyam." Look at how he speaks. He gives a detailed note on how communication skills are. Probably that may come in chapter 5 of organizational behavior in semester 3 of MBA. You have some of the best business schools here. Please do attend those courses. At the same time, do understand that our ancestors were not strictly living in the forest with antelope skins on them, and then Robert Clive came and taught them how civilization was. So we have had detailed notes on what communication skill is. Geeti Shigri Shirakampi. First thing, Likhita Patakaha. Never write and keep your speech, says Rama. Never write. What if the lights go? Kya karu main? So, likhita patakaha anarthagnaha alpakanti cha shadete pathakadamaha. Always have, anaya chitraya vacha, always have eye contact with your audience. See, this is all we get from those skippable ads, communication skills course, 3 days, 999 only. I'm giving it to you for free. So, communication skills have been detailed in the Ramayana. Let's take an example of how was the dampatyam, the couplehood between Rama and Sita, because some warriors will want to become undeclared advocates to Sita. Sita doesn't need an advocate. She is an excellent speaker. She can manage her case. So, in the Ramayana, when Rama leaves his bhavanam to meet Dasharatha because he has been summoned, he looks at Sita. That is where Valmiki says he looked at Sita's eyes, because Shastram says that if you look at Mahalakshmi's eyes, whatever you think of will fructify. He looked at Sita because his mission was to go to the forest and then go to Lanka and annihilate the Rakshasas there. So he looked at Sita. In the Ramayanam, without Sita's consent, permission, Rama does not befriend anyone. When Hanuman meets Sita in Ashokavanam, she asks, you say that you are the messenger of Sugriva, and you say that my husband Rama has made friendship with, struck a chord of friendship with Sugriva. How did this happen? What she meant was, without my permission, how did this happen? Hanuman was a Navavyakarana Pandita. He could just not read the lines, between the lines. He said, Mata, while you were being abducted by Ravana, you threw jewelry at us, looking at us. When you looked at us and threw the jewelry, your eye glances were enough for us to befriend Rama. Vanaranam naranam va kathamasit samagamaha. Small things. Why did he give moksham to Jatayu? See, generally there's a speech or probably, books written. Rama was a normal human being. You must have, he was like a primitive mortal. Later people Brahminized him, and people later who came made the divinity in him sparkle. I'm sorry. There is a work called Atimanushastavam, Atimanusha Sheelavrittaveshaihi, Ativrittamara Vikramah Pratapaihi, Atilanghita Sarvaloka Samyam, Varaye Vaishnava Vaibhava Avataram, says the poet. A normal human being, a primitive mortal, as what some authors claim, will not have the ability to give moksham. When Rama, who's bereft of his wife, walks along with Lakshmana from Maharashtra to Karnataka, they see a dying scavenger bird, vulture called Jatayu. Jatayu conveys that his wife has been abducted by Ravana, and then his Jivatma leaves his material body. You know what Rama says? Gachalokan anuttaman. Hey Jatayu's Atma, go to that abode from which there is no return. Gachalokan anuttaman. He gives moksham. Which normal human being? In the US, you have a concept called roadkills. Because when your vehicles drive at such huge speed, you will see many, many animals which are dead on the highways of the US especially. In Bangalore, there's no chance because you have a Janavasa Urgolam. Slowly, we have to go at 10 kilometers per hour. Which animal will die? I come from Bangalore. So, in the US, when you go, you see dead animals on the road. Imagine I get from my car, oh, antelope. I hereby command, in the name of all my father, mother, let the Jivatma in your body go to moksham. That antelope will ask me, will you go to moksham? Do you have the right to go to moksham? So Rama made it very clear that he had the ability in him. That is called Atimanushastavam. Why am I telling this? Because it is very easy for any one of them to take us for a ride. If we do not know Ramayanam that well, we can put a tick mark. Ayodhya, I had a darshan. Look at my selfie. Excellent. What after that? When you read Pramanam, your understanding of Prameyam becomes extremely good. There will be some Brihaspatis in the state of Tamil Nadu who will say, that Rama had no connection with the state of Tamil Nadu. He was restricted to Uttar Pradesh, Lucknow main road, the Agra bypass. He never came to the south of India. The south of India, we come from some different planet. We don't have a connection. You know, the kings of Ramanathapuram were called Setupati. Why? Because they're like how the kings of Thiruvananthapuram thought that they were eternal servants to Lord Padmanabha of Thiruvananthapuram. The kings of Ramanathapuram said, we are people who are meant to protect the Setu constructed between Bharatadesham and Lanka. They were called Setupati. That was a name given to the kings. What more proof do you want? So, it is extremely important for us to get back to our roots. When I say roots, there are different ways that you can always perceive this word or this phrase. But returning to our roots means reading our pramanam. And one of the easiest ways to understanding pramanam is when you listen. See, in Sanatana Dharma, two things are extremely important. Shruti, listen. Smriti, remember. Both of them are tough these days. The first one is possible, the second one is tougher. Remembering. So, Rama tells Lakshmana, see, Nanrigveda Vinitasya Nayajurveda Dharinaha. Dharana Shakti, that ability to retain that knowledge. It's very, very important in Sanatana Dharma, and there are various ways to do that. What more in Ramayanam impresses us? The connection. See, in Srimad Ramayanam, you come across this place of Ayodhya kandam. So, you come across Ayodhya kandam. In Ayodhya kandam, Rama is told by his dear father that Rama, you will become the king. See, technically, Dasharatha was not on the dying bed. He was not dying. It just so happened, Kalidasa says, that day Dasharatha combed his hair. And he saw one strand of grey hair. That's all. And it seems that one strand of grey hair told Dasharatha, enough of you ruling, give it to your son. Tam karnamoolamagatya ramer shrirnyasyatamiti kaikeyi shankhayevaha parita chadmana jara. This is Raghuvamsha Shlokam. So then Dasharatha calls his ministers. In those days, ministers were very learned people. So, learned ministers came and very well trained rishis came, and Dasharatha asked them, I have thought that Rama could become the Yuvaraja, Pattabhishekam could happen to him. Is he fit enough? That is when the people say, Ichhamohi Mahabahum, Raghuviram Mahabalam, Gajena Mahatayantam, Ramam Chhatravritananam, He Dasharatha. We were waiting for that moment when you will declare Rama as the king. So immediately Dasharatha asked, was I so bad? So no, you were good, but we are very sure Rama will be better. So he says, and then he asks people in the Tamil Kambaramayanam, people say, when Dasharatha asks, what is the qualification in Rama to become the heir apparent, the people say that Rama's wife is good. Tayyil nallal. So more than people who come to power, their dharma patnis or patis should be good. They should not end up saying, aankhon ko band kare, mehsoos kare, sharir aapke paas hai, atma inke paas hai. So, here, he says, Tayyil nallal. That said, when the ministers say Rama is completely capable, Dasharatha agrees to it. See, we are often accused that our itihasas were dynasty in nature. They were dynastic, right? The eldest son will become the king. But there were many, many instances where the rajas were killed by the praja, where the rajas were declared unfit. So finally, Dasharatha agrees that Rama has to become the king. Then he calls Rama and tells Rama, Rama, in my Jatakam, there are 3 grahas which are in a straight line. Surya, Angaraka, Rahubihi. So the astrologers say that there will be some harm to me. Before something occurs to me, I want to ensure that Ayodhya, the Rajadhani of Kosala, is in the safe hands of you. Rama agrees. He says, okay, Papa. And he comes. He comes and informs Sita, and Sita is equally not that elated. She takes it unequivocal. She says, okay, fine, everything is done. Then that evening comes Manthara, the babysitter of Kaikeyi. She had so much rights on Kaikeyi. She comes, gets to know that Rama will be made the heir apparent. She goes and brainwashes Kaikeyi. And then Kaikeyi asks that, what should I do now? Then Manthara tells, see how much details Manthara knows. Manthara says, long back your husband fought a war with Shambhara in the capital called Vaijayanta. And at that point in time, when you assisted your husband in the war, he granted you 2 boons. And as usual, a clueless person that you are, you did not know what to ask. You kept those 2 boons in cold storage. Now I would like to tell you, you ask, retrieve those 2 boons. Then Kaikeyi asks, what boons should I ask? That is when Manthara says, ask with the first boon that your son Bharata should rule. And with the second boon, Rama should go to the forest for 14 years. There is no justification given for 14 years in Ramayana. The commentator says, why? Why 14 years? Because if Rama goes to the forest as a tapasvi, in the forest you are generally prohibited from having a physical relationship. So her original plan was not to have Sita also go with Rama. If Rama goes as a tapasvi, he will not have a dharmapatni there. Thereby he will not have children. Meanwhile, we'll coax Bharata to have children. If Bharata has a son, we will train him. In 14 years, he will become a Kshatriya, so the next line of succession will be ready. All our political parties make note of this. So the next line of succession is ready. That is when these 2 boons were sought and Dasharatha had no option but to give. Then Rama is again called. He is told that it is now plan B. It's not plan A anymore. Plan B, you have to go to the forest. Had it been Krishna, he would have sued him in the court. Rama being Rama, he said, fine. Whatever you say, father. He goes and informs Sita. And he tells Sita, I have to leave Ayodhya and go to Dandakaranyam for 14 years. Let's stay in touch. Keep your mobile data on. The world is small. Siya, Mua, all this he said. That is when Sita asked, where are you leaving me? In Ayodhya. With whom? With my mother. Better I come with you. So Rama says, you come. Then as Rama and Sita leave their apartment, their Shuddhatma, they go seek the blessings of Kaushalya. Kaushalya now says, first she laments, she says, all these years I was humiliated by Kaikeyi and by your father. I was waiting for the moment when you will sit on the throne of Ayodhya. Look at my destiny where I have to see my very dear biological son go to the forest. She laments about 30-40 verses and Ayodhya kandam goes like this. And finally when Rama says, nothing doing, I have to go to the forest. Then Kaushalya says, now that you have decided to go to the forest, I give you 2 rings made of herbs, Santanakarani and Vishalyakarani. Ramayana mentions the name of the herbs. Then she says, I will pronounce 2 verses on you, which was told by a lady called Vinata to her son Garuda when he went on a sojourn to get Amritam. Ramayana says, Pura Vinata Mangala Shlokena, she says, I will tell you 2 Mangala Shlokam. What are those Mangala Shlokams? We don't know. What are those 2 Mangala Shlokams? Ramayanam doesn't give an answer. Mahabharatam, the first Parva, Adi Parva, has a chapter called Vainateyopakhyanam, where we have those 2 verses. Prishthaute Marutav Patu, Chandrasurya Prishtataha, Shirascha Patu Vanhiste. Those 2 shlokas come there. So Ramayana and Mahabharata are connected, linked. If someone asks, in interviews, I don't know where these questions come from. Do you like Mahabharat or Ramayana? First of all, it is not Ramayana. It is not Sita's journey. It is Ramayanam. Rama iti shabde Lakshmi vachakaha. So, is it Ramayana or Mahabharata? If I say both, then they'll think that I have not read either. So, the point is, our itihasas are so very well connected. When Rama leaves Ayodhya along with Sita and Lakshmana, Bharata has a dream. When Dasharatha dies, Bharata has a dream in Kekeya. In Kekeya Desham, Bharata has a dream that his father, who's tonsured, smeared in oil, draped in black and red clothes, wearing iron ornaments, is pulled in a chain by a lady with a devilish guffa. She pulls him and throws him off the boulder into a sea of dung. This is his dream. He is bewildered and he wakes up to the nightmare that he saw in the form of a dream. He tells Shatrughna, Shatrughna, I had this dream. Shatrughna says, don't worry. You know, generally if somebody says first, you have to say, don't worry. Worry na julva. Kavalapadu. Don't worry. I will ensure that we have pravachanakartas who will do pravachanam. This shlokam comes in Ayodhya kandam. So we people who give discourses were famous from then. So he calls one pravachanakarta and says, tell one story. What story? That we do not know. To ward off the effects, evil effects of a bad dream, what story was narrated? We do not know. But where do we get an answer to it? Those of you who recite Vishnu Sahasranamam will get to know one namam. Duswapnana Shanaha. Have you heard of this nama? Ketamari irka? Telisa Vishnu Sahasranamamlo vastundi kada? So, in Vishnu Sahasranamam, we get this nama, Duswapnana Shanaha. So, the one who helps us ward off the evil effects of bad dreams. But what did he listen? Ramayana says he listened to a story. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the 8th skandam, the 8th canto has Gajendra Moksham. 8th canto, 2nd, 3rd and 4th chapters. The 4th chapter ends with a Palashruti. If you listen to Gajendra Moksham, your evil effects of bad dreams will be taken away. So he must have heard Gajendra Moksham that night. So what story he heard? That answer we get it from Srimad Bhagavatam. All our itihasas and Puranas are so very well linked. We think we have to experience and enjoy them in silos. No, they are very well linked. Let's take another example. In Srimad Ramayanam, when Dasharatha understands that Rama has to be coronated, he calls Rama and says, Rama, you'll be coronated. What will an ideal father do? He will wait for his other 2 sons who are abroad in Afghanistan to come. Kekeya is the current day Afghanistan. So he will wait for those 2 sons to come. Instead he says, no, kintu chittam manushyanam anityam iti mematam. Humans are very fickle-minded, so we should do at the earliest. So he says we have to arrange in the absence of Bharata. Why? The answer is very simple. For which I have to tell you another instance. When the Kaikeyi says with the first boon, let my son Bharata become the king, and with the second boon, let Sita's husband go to the forest. You know what Dasharatha says? He says, I'm fine with Bharata becoming the king. So Dasharatha instantly agrees to Bharata becoming the king. At the same time, Dasharatha is worried that Bharata should not be there when Rama Pattabhishekam happens. Why? The answer comes in the 104th Sarga of Ayodhya Kandam. When Dasharatha married Kaikeyi, see, Kaikeyi's father was a very learned man. His name was Ashwapati. Extremely learned. His name comes in Brahma Sutram. Vaishvanaradhikaranam, we get his name. Extremely learned. But Sumantra comes and tells Kaikeyi, you have just imbibed your mother, because Kaikeyi's mother was Putana square and Mantara cube. So this mother of Kaikeyi, she told Dasharatha, if you want to marry my daughter, promise me that the son born to my daughter only can become the heir apparent. Immaterial of whether you have older sons, the one born to Kaikeyi should become the king. And Right Honorable V.S. Srinivasa Shastri always used to state, Dasharatha is a king who promises in haste and repent in leisure. So he said, "Theek hai." Emoticon, he said, "Theek hai." Now, this agreement made by Dasharatha that Kaikeyi's son should become the heir apparent was known to Kaikeyi's mother and him alone. Kaikeyi's mother was banished because of her bad demeanor by Ashwapati into the forest. So the only person who knew about this promise was Dasharatha. So he was worried, if Bharata comes back after 12 years from Kekeya to Ayodhya, what if he was told by his grandmother that he has to become the heir apparent? So he said, let this Pattabhishekam happen in Bharata's absence. Even Manthara did not know of it. Then why else will she break her head for those 2 boons? She could have retrieved this particular rule itself, right? But why didn't Dasharatha let this happen? See, immaterial of whoever remember this boon, Dasharatha as an honest king should fulfill his promise. Why didn't he do it? Vasishtha gives an answer. In Dharma Shastram, there are 5 occasions where if you give a commitment, you can break that commitment. The first is for the sake of marriage, if you promise something, if it is not under your control, you don't have to fulfill that wish. Make note of it. There is a shlokam in Dharma Shastram. Patisam prayoge and vivaha kale ratisam prayoge. Vivaha kale. So using this rule, in Tamil there is a saying. How many of you can understand basic Tamil? Oh, very good. So in Tamil, we always have this saying, na oru tharava sonna, nooru tharava sonna mari. Now we extrapolated it to 1,000. Aayiram poi solli oru kalyanam panna. Inga oru poi dhan solli irukaravar. So that has been extrapolated to 1,000. So now you may wonder, why these details are important? It is extremely important if you want to understand Itihasam really, really well. This will give you a very clear picture of how Itihasam goes. I'll give you another instance. See, often in discourses you will hear Maryada Purushottam Ram. Ram stuck to all his ideals. Correct. Dharmo vigrahavan adharma viratim. No doubt about that. But there are instances which people generally overlook or do not want to speak about. I'll give you one instance. When Rama, Lakshmana and Sita enter the forest, Aranyam, Dandaka Aranyam, first kidnap case happens. Sita is abducted by Viradha. Viradha abducts Sita and runs. Rama and Lakshmana run behind her. She says, "Bachao, bachao," you know that typical scene. So Rama and Lakshmana run behind Viradha and they say, "Viradha, leave her, leave her." That time, vexed with his state, Rama looks at Lakshmana and says, "Lakshmana, look at my state. I have left my kingdom. I am now languishing in the forest. My wife is abducted by Viradha. I just hope my mother Kaikeyi will be happy now." This is a shlokam in Aranya Kandam. Because this is completely contrary to our image of Rama, right? For us, Rama has to be with a sober face. Jo hai Lakshman. He has to speak in that tone. But Valmiki is very honest, brutally honest. Rama is still Dharmo Vigrahavan. But why should we hide when Valmiki has not hidden this detail? Shouldn't we be honest to that scripture? Why should I worry what will people think? What if they make 10-second memes out of what I have said? No. I do not speak about my scriptures considering what social media agents will do. It is my pertinent duty and dharmam to speak what Shastram says. Such minute details do matter a lot. See, we do hear and see a lot of people in the last 10 years, hundreds and thousands of crores being spent on making movies which kind of depict our scriptures. You must have seen so many remakes of Ramayana. If you ask, they'll say they have spent 750 crores on that movie. Simple thing. In the forest, you are not allowed to shave, says Dharma Shastram. Simple rule. If you read Dharma Shastram, Rishis say inside the forest you are not allowed to shave. Sir, first of all, did we have barber in those days? Yes. They were called Shmashruvardhanaha. The name given to a barber was Shmashruvardhana. When Rama returns after 14 years of his stay in the forest back to Ayodhya, the shlokam in Yuddha Kandam reads where Bharata arranges for a Shmashruvardhana first. So in the forest you are not allowed to shave. When you are not allowed to shave, how can you depict a hero with a mustache and no beard? Correct? When you're showing someone, isn't this basic knowledge? Then Sita will be depicted with Valkalam. She will also be wearing the same beige color clothes what Rama wears. Sita wore silk, bright color clothes. She wore silk. She wore, what is that? Mangalagiri. Where in the Ungurla Kadekume? Come on. Ikkat, Sambalpuri, Muga, Pochampalli, Baithani. KSIC, I'll come from Karnataka, then Kanchipuram, Darasuram, Tribhuvanam, Arani. She wore all of this. How do you know, sir? In the Ramayana, it comes, she wore silk clothes. The depiction in the movie will be Sita did not wear jewelry. Sarva bharana bhushitaihi. She adorned herself with jewelry because her father-in-law said, Dasharatha said, it is my son who has been asked to go to the forest. My daughter-in-law shouldn't suffer. Lakshmana carry as many silk clothes and jewelry that she requires for 14 years. And when she was abducted, when the day she was kidnapped, her sari had the motif of Hamsam, says Vedanta Deshika. Tadda Kulanka Murtav. They get into the nitty-gritties of Ramayanam. Ramayanam is a Kalpavrksam. At the same time, some may ask, sir, this is all narration. We want to understand the philosophy behind it. You know, there is one statement. I'm into philosophy. I'm not that religious. I still now, if there is some Brihaspati here who can explain that line to me, how can you be philosophical and not be religious? It is like telling I can perform a vernier calipers experiment without believing in physics. Correct? How can you not understand the theory and relish the theory and just believe in the pendulum and how many times it goes in the melting point of wax? You have to believe in the theory. Philosophy is the crux, but applied philosophy is what is dharmam, which is religion. When you apply philosophy, it becomes religion. People, when we write, suppose if they say lectures on Bhagavad Gita by Dushyanth, there will be a certain set of people. If you ask the same set of people to come to Ramayana, no, we are not interested in Ramayana. We are interested in Gita. See, you don't want to clear the first 12 grades. You don't want to do your bachelor's and master's. Straight, you want to go to postdoctorate. Bhagavad Gita. How will you understand Gita when you do not understand the basics of Ramayana? Krishna invokes Janaka, Asthita Janakadayaha. He invokes Janaka, his father-in-law of the previous avataram in Bhagavad Gita. Why is Janaka invoked? Without understanding Ramayana, how will we understand this? I'll give you an example of how philosophy is brought into Ramayana. See, in Siddhantam, we believe that our Indriyas are our biggest enemies. Imagine the entire setup, what you see here, where you're listening to me speak and some great musicians who are going to perform, was happening next to MTR Hotel. You will have the ghee-laden masala dosa. Have you seen all those reels of how masala dosa is made? The amount of ghee that they put, you can see Vaikuntham in it. It is not Ihaloka Saukhyam, Paraloka Saukhyam. So, imagine that there was a very good food stall here. Even after listening to Ramayanam, our nose will be attracted only there. See, on the day of Ekadashi, imagine somebody is making vasal vada and you smell it. Vrata rule states, if you smell masala vada itself, your vratam is gone. Forget eating. So, Indriyas become, our senses become our own enemies. So, we have Pancha Jnanendriyam, eyes, ear, nose, tongue, skin. And we have Pancha Karmendriyam, hands, legs, face, reproductive and excretory organs. So, 10. These 10 organs in a way cause or bring us agony, problem. Those 10 organs are now stationed or personified as the 10 heads of Ravana. Ravana is the one who troubles with his flaws the Jivatma, who is none but Sita. Where is she seated? Within the body called Lanka. So Lanka is the material human body, inside which is the Jivatma like Sita, troubled by the 10 Indriyas called Ravana. This Jivatma has to seek union or has to be at the feet of Paramatma, who is Rama, in Bharatadesham or Vaikuntham. Between Bharatadesham, which is akin to Vaikuntham, and between the body, material body, which is Lanka, is Samsara Sagaram. So Paramatma called Rama has to convey the information or message to Jivatmasthana Sita that I am there for you, do not worry. So he chooses a guru, an acharya called Hanuman, who carries the message across the waters, conveys the message effectively to Sita, and comes back. Vedanta Deshika, the 13th century polymath, summarizes the philosophy. He says, Darpodagra dashendriyana namanaha naktachara dishtite dehesmin bhavasindhunam parigate dinam dashamasthitaha Adhyatve Hanumat Samena Guruna Prakyapitarthav Puman Lanka Ruddha Videha Rajatanaya Nyayena Lalapyate. So there is philosophy as well. So if you have to see Ramayana and understand its nuances, again my point is, visiting Ayodhya is like relishing the prameyam. But to relish that prameyam, we have to understand the pramanam. So getting back to Ramayana and its rules is very important. Lastly, I would like to spend a few minutes on how our poets have used different ways to attract us. Sarcasm is one. Nindastuti is another. I'm sure you're all living in this beautiful state of Telangana, which is home to one of the very famous and a very close temple to my heart, Bhadrachalam. Bhadrachala Rama has such beauty, Lavanya Rama. After having constructed the temple, it did so happen that Kanchala Gopanna was put into the jail that you see in the outskirts of this Bhagyanagaram in Golconda Fort by Tana Shah. So every day he would receive lashes from the king for having used up the money, which isn't true. There is ample proof stating that he didn't use up that money. He constructed a temple. But he received lashes from Tana Shah. He kept pleading to Rama, Rama, I've constructed a temple for you. I'm so attached to you. Come and save me. Come and release me. At one point in time, he gets disturbed with Rama's silence. He says, Rama, you are posing for photos from Bhadrachalam with such beautiful necklaces that have emeralds in it. Did your father-in-law give this to you? Mutyala Padakamu Ramachandra Nimama Ajanaka Maharaj Pampena Ramachandra. Did Janaka send this to you by FedEx? That you are wearing, sporting a jewelry. It was me who gave you this jewelry. You are duty bound to release me. See, this conversation between a devotee and the Lord, Rama Bhakta and Rama, is extremely intriguing because the devotee takes so much of rights on Rama. The use of sarcasm. See, Sanskritam as a language itself is quite sarcastic in a way. Punya means punyam, good deeds. Janaha means people. Punya Janaha means very good. Rakshasas are called Punya Janaha. So if someone introduces you, you're a Punya Jana, he's actually meaning you're a Rakshasa in Sanskritam. So, when Vishwamitra comes and asks Dasharatha, Swaputram Rajashardulam Ramam Satya Parakramam, Kakapaksha Dharam Veeram Jeshtham Me Datumarhasi, give me the eldest of your sons who adheres to the fashion of the current day, because the fashion of those days was the men used to pull 2-3 strands of hair in the front, use pens to roll, and that will keep hanging near their temples. It was called Kakapaksham. So send me that son of yours who's a fashionista of the current day. Dasharatha declines. Then Vishwamitra gets angry. He says, Aham vedmi mahatmanam ramam satya parakramam. Don't you think I do not know about the caliber and the prowess of your son? That you have the audacity to deny? Dasharatha denies. Vishwamitra gets extremely angry and he leaves the Sabha Mantapam. He says by leaving, Sukhi bhava suhrid vritaha. May you live happily with your family. Now I'll tell you what is the harm. Suppose we do not, see, Valmiki did not know English. We do not know Sanskritam. Look at the gap that we are facing. So we have to depend on the translation from Columbia University of 1926 to understand Ramayana. Then what will be the translation to this shloka? Vishwamitra, the Rishi with grace and prowess, looked at the worried face of Dasharath and said, may you live happily with your family. See, when he says you should live happily with your family, he is not blessing him. You are able to get the sarcastic tone. Kannadadavaru idara illi? So now jagada adovaga heltive channagiri sir neevu channagiri. When you are fighting, if you say live happily, it means you will not live happily. The opposite meaning will come. So if you read translations, you see the disaster. Now you will be thinking, Vishwamitra says, may you live happily ever after. What did he mean? What he meant was, you will not live happily. So the sarcasm. See, that sarcasm is so old in Sanatana Dharma. Even in Ramayana, you will see in various occasions where sarcasm comes. When Sita, the Garbhavati, is deserted in the forest, there is a dialogue by Sita to Lakshmana. She says, Lakshmana, I've heard you and your brother say that you learnt under Vasishtha. Probably you have learnt how to live well from Vasishtha. When she was deserted, she says, so that is what she meant. So those words matter a lot. So my humble submission again is, Anandaji, when she spoke to me, what will be your topic? I said, what next after the mandir? Immediately we'll come up with 2-3 more mandirs. But that is not the only aim. We should equip ourselves with the pramanam. For whom is Ramayana written for? If we keep believing that we can give money for foundations and trusts for constructing temples, I'm sorry, Sanatana Dharma will not sustain with temples alone. It needs the help of our scriptures. So my earnest request from the bottomest of my heart, however bottom I could get, is please start reading the scriptures. It is extremely important. Please start listening. Because reading will help you clear certain doubts to a certain extent. But listening will help you a lot. Ramyamaina ee Telugu bhasha, Telugu teta anta cheptaru kada. Telugu bhashalo we have great speakers, Chaganti Kotishwar Rao garu, Samavedam Shanmukha Sharma garu, Garikapati. So many great speakers you have. You had Appalacharyulu in those days. Listen. Today we have been extremely successful. We have one set of great Brihaspatis who have been extremely successful in separating Karnataka Sangeetam from Shastram. You know, they have said that you don't need to know Tyagaraja, you don't need to respect Tyagaraja. You know, Tyagaraja just sings Ra and Ma. He doesn't sing the Swaram. Tyagaraja was actually vexed with his wife and life, so he wrote some kritis. It's okay if we earn crores with singing his kritis. Let him be a destitute. It doesn't matter if we have to respect Rama. It doesn't matter. So this is the narrative that we are living in. I agree that music is universal. I am not a dumb person to state that music was born only in India and every other country aped it. Music is universal, but the genre of music called Karnataka Sangeetam is rooted in Dharma. Nobody says Michael Jackson has to do Shalagrama Tiruvaradhana. Let him follow the genre that he follows. But if you are started your lessons with Purandaradasa's lessons, you are bound to that Dharma. Agreed that Sanatana Dharma says that body is a clothing. See, in Sanatana Dharma, Jivatma is the imperishable, eternal material, the sentient matter. What we come as a material body over it is a simple clothing. So what we wear over that body actually shouldn't matter. But when you make it a point to state that only if I wear dhoti or I wear lungi, I am trying to prove a point of caste inclusivity, I beg to differ. Even with dhoti, I can be as inclusive as possible. I don't have to sport a lungi. If you believe that only by singing praises of deities from other religion I will be inclusive, I'm sorry to say, I'm already secular and inclusive. I don't have to prove it by singing kritis of other religions. I'm sorry. Bharatanatyam is a shastram which is rooted in Sanatana Dharma. It is a shastram that Bhringi, Natesha, Nataraja Murti, Krishna as Kalinga Nartana, when he did Rasa Krida, this is how this shastram has come. Agreed that every dance form needs to be respected. Bharatanatyam as a dance form is rooted in Dharma, it is rooted in Natya Shastram, it is rooted in Bharata Muni's teachings. Dancing on a moving bus, dancing in an auto rickshaw doesn't make it inclusive. Sorry to say this. If by doing all this, somebody promises me an award, that award is like a worthless bauble. I don't need that award. So, with this, we have to do some soul searching with such beautiful music that is going to come by Karthik and his wonderful team of excellently talented musicians, Vidwans. So I'm sure all of you will be seated for such a great feast, which is going to be a treat to the ears. Thank you once again. Thank you, Anandaji, for having given me a platform to speak on what next after the Prameyam, which is Rama Mandiram, which is Pramanam today, which is Srimad Ramayanam. Thank you all. Thank you all the Astikas for having listened to my talk, which could have been a certain form of rambling so patiently. Namaskaram. Jai Shri Ram.